Hello there, it's Emma here, and it's the last session of making some art this summer term. And we're going to be making a summer mandala. And a mandala is like a pattern, and mandala is the Sanskrit word for circle. And so we're going to make a artwork that's based on a circle. Um, Usually these mandalas, they can be temporary. They can be made on the floor of buildings and temples for Buddhists. And people would make, monks would make the circular pattern. It might take them a few days to make it. And they might make it out of coloured sand or coloured rice, and they'd sprinkle it into very intricate patterns on the floor. But ultimately, when they finished, came along with a big broom, swept it all up. So mandalas can be temporary, or we can make a permanent one. We're going to make a permanent one as a piece of artwork. So I'm going to point the camera down and you can see how to make a mandala pattern. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do, let's turn the light up. There we go. We are going to make a colourful background. Okay. And my colourful background is just by painting lots of circles of watercolour on a piece of paper. You could use coloured pencils if you haven't got watercolours, or you could use anything else that you like to colour with. Here are my paints. Good tip when you're using paints is to give each of the little colours that you plan to use a little drink before you start using them. So just dab some water on, okay? Right, so now I can start rubbing my paintbrush into the colour, picking up the colour on my paintbrush, and then I can go onto my paper, start making a circle. I'm trying to do it roughly in the middle. It really doesn't matter if it's not quite in the middle. Clean out my brush. I'm going to go for a different colour. Go for this lovely bright red. So I thought we'd call this a summer mandala. We can think about all the colours that are nice and bright. Maybe you've seen lots of flowers growing outside in the garden. Maybe you're thinking about, it's a time when people sometimes go on holidays, isn't it? Be thinking about tropical colours. Now that's a really, really kind of hard line in between the two colours. If I want to, I'll just dab my brush in here to clean it out. So there's no paint on it, it's just clean water. I can go around there and I can add some extra water to the red to make it a bit more blendy. I'll hold that up. See how that's blending a bit more now? Yeah? So if you don't like the hard lines, you can blend it. Okay, how about some blue? You can see what I'm doing now. I'm just going round in circles, adding layers of colour. Do you think you can do that? I think you can. Okay. And just keep on going till you've reached the edge of your paper. Okay. I'm just going to blend this one a bit more with the red. So I've got my clean water on my brush. There we go. Okay, you can do that. I'm going to move that out of the way. So what we're going to do now is going to move on to using another material. We are going to be using some pieces of foam. I know that sounds a bit strange. This is some printing foam. Can you hear it? If I tap it, you can hear it's made out of foam. Okay, and this is great for making a printing plate, and we're going to make a relief plate. And if you've ever done any lino printing, it's the same sort of thing. So here's my big bit of foam here. I don't need that big a bit today, so I've cut it up into smaller bits. So we are going to take a normal pen, a ballpoint pen like this, and we are going to press our design onto our plates. We're going to draw it on. And if I run my finger over that printing plate, over that piece of foam, I can feel it's really bumpy, and the bumpy bits are good. Okay, so when we press down, we need to make sure we're making bumpy lines. So first of all, I am going to draw a bit like half a rainbow on here. I'll show you what I mean. And I'm doing it quite lightly at the moment, only using a little bit of pressure. Can you see what I mean? I've done a half a rainbow. So there's a, you can turn it around like that. You imagine it's half a rainbow. And that will make a lovely circle when we print it on our background. Now I'm going over my half a rainbow now. So it is, I can feel it is really bumpy. Okay, I've made a really good dent in there. Okay, and the paint, the ink isn't going to get in there. It's just going to stay on the top. Okay, so now I can make a series of rainbows, half rainbows, and each bit that I do, I'm going to fill up with a design. Okay, there we go. So what can I do? I can do dots. I can just press my pen into the foam. Can you hear it? I'm trying not to go all the way through, okay? Guess what? I can turn my pen the other way around and put this on the table so I can press hard. I can press it, so I've got the end of the pen in there. There we are. I'll hold that up. You see those? That's the end of the pen, yeah? Then I can get this bit of the pen, the nib, and it's kind of like a triangle shape at the top. I can get the triangle shape. I can push that in as well. So let's do some triangle shapes. And in a minute, we're going to cover all of this flat bit of the printing plate with ink. But wherever I've made a dent, wherever I've made a hole or a line, the ink won't go in it. And that will stay the colour of our background. If that sounds a bit complicated, don't worry. Let's put it into action. So I've got a little tray. This is just an old ice cream tray lid. What could you use if you haven't got one of those? A piece of plastic or one of these document wallets. We can spread our ink out on there. I've got some printing ink. You could use paint, just dab it on with a paintbrush, couldn't you? But I quite like using this printing ink. Now I've gone for a dark colour. I'd go for a dark blue or a dark black or something like that. And I'm also lucky I've got a roller. I'm rolling out the ink on the tray to make a nice even layer of ink on my roller. And then I can get my printing plate, which I've got lots of little bumps and lines on. I'm going to roll this over, okay? And once you do that, you can see your pattern. You can see how it's going to look. Looks pretty cool, doesn't it? There we are. Hold it up so you can see. Nice. Now we're going to print with this one. But as you can see, this printing plate is much smaller than our background. Guess what we're going to do? Yeah, we're going to print it 4 times on here. We've got room to do it 4 times. So I'm going to decide which is the center of my circle, because we're going to print it's almost like a circle shape, our mandala. I'm going to have one bit which is the corner. And if you're really clever, if I've got a pen, we can mark that. So I know that's always got to be in the center of where I'm printing. Then I'm going to kind of roughly find the center of my circle. And I'm going to put my printing plate down. I'm going to give it a really good squodge and squish. You can almost turn it over. Don't flip your table like I did. And give it a rub. Gosh, that nearly ended up on my lap. That would have been a mess. Okay, now we're going to pull it off. Ooh, very nice. Guess what we have to do? We have to go around 3 more times to make our mandala. Here's number 2. Find your corner, which has got the cross on it. That has to be in the middle. So it all matches up. There we are. Give that a squash. Flip it over. Give it a rub. You can always have a sneaky peek, see how it's doing. Ooh, look, nice. Halfway through, there's my corner with the cross on it. I know that has to go in the middle now. Give it a squash. Give it a rub. You will end up getting covered in ink, by the way. It's impossible to stay clean when you're printing. And you see how I'm loading up my roller every time that I go back and put colour on my printing plate. Here's the last one. Here's the X. I know I need to put that in the middle. There we go. Give that a last rub. Fingers crossed. It's going to look good. Peel it off. Yay! Cool. So there we are. We've used a quarter of a square to make a whole circular pattern. Looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Yeah? Right. Well, I hope you enjoy making your summer mandala pattern. There we are. And I will see you later. Have a good summer. Bye.